Welcome to the Hockey Writers Flames Faceoff, a weekly show with our top Calgary Flames writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the Flaming Sea. So get set, get focused. It's time for the Flames Faceoff. Flames Faceoff.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Quinney, and this is the Flames Faceoff brought to you by the Hockey Writers. Now, we're a weekly show, and to make sure you don't miss an episode, what you can do is subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Give us a like on YouTube and Facebook if you like what you see, and do be sure to share this video with your fellow Flames fans. And be sure to check out some of the great hockey content that we have here at thehockeywriters.com. So with that, let's get going. I'd like to introduce the panel, and we have with us Brett Krauss. Brett, how are you doing?
Doing well today, Paul. Excited for another episode.
Geez, I almost called you Brett Ritchie there, so I don't think you've been insulted like that in a long time.
Gee, I wonder what's on your mind today. Ready to dive in?
Yeah. And none other than Mr. Greg Tysowski. Greg, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm feeling pretty good today, and but my family's starting to push back on the length of my COVID beard here. It's I'm looking more like a homeless man every day, but I'm still ready to talk some Flames hockey here. So,
what do you mean a COVID beard? What's a beard? What's going on there?
Well, just when you're in a pandemic and you don't leave the house as much as you should, you don't really care what your appearance is looking like, and I've been slacking off on that a little bit. So maybe next week you'll see me with a haircut and clean shaven, and maybe our viewership will start spiking after that. So we'll see.
All right, we're gonna have to put the analytics on that. Do we do better with Tysowski with a beard or a clean-shaven young man? But
we'll see.
Anyway, yeah. Well, hey, anything for the ratings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, let's dive right into it. It was opening night last night for the Flames in Edmonton, and they lost. Continuing a perfect record going back to 2009 of losing opening night games. I guess you can't read. It's one game, so you can't read too much into it. But hopefully, it's not the start of a poor start to the season. They've had a lot of those where they play 500 hockey, puts them behind the eight ball. They're playing, they're chasing a playoff spot or trying to defend one. It's got to be exhausting for them when they get off to a poor start. A bit concerned because their schedule is tough. Monday night, they welcome the Anaheim Ducks into the Saddle Dome, and then they're off to the east for a pretty tough road trip. So with that as the scene, what's everybody's take on last night? Brett, let me start with you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, definitely not a great start, that's for sure. I think, Markstrom didn't have a stellar night, but, also 2 power play goals against, and a McDavid hat trick is, always a tough way to go. But, even Derek Ryan's goal there in front, he just happened to kind of get the swat in and got it over his shoulder. So, but the team essentially outplayed them in every other category other than goal scoring. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a positive. I think it could have been a closer game the way it went, but definitely nothing to be too concerned about yet, in my opinion. Just from looking at, they nearly had 50 shots on goal, and Mike Smith is still just defying the odds for the Oilers here. And but no, I think going up against the Ducks here on Monday, that'll be an easy, or where they can really turn it around, I think, after kind of a tough loss that way.
Yeah. Well, interesting. You mentioned Smith. He's an inspiration for old guys everywhere. So I love him.
Yeah.
But Greg, what takeaways from last night for you?
Well, I agree with Brett in the extent that like 5-on-5, I think the Flames are actually the better team. Like they even after the game, Sutter, it didn't seem like overly upset with the effort. I think he was he mentioned the two power play goals against that were kind of tough. There was a Lucic tripping that was a bad penalty, and Rasmus Andersson kind of lost it in the corner against Yamamoto there. But even that, Sutter was saying we haven't been defending our goalie well enough last year, and so he kind of didn't mind seeing a bit of rough stuff, after the whistle, I think. So it's like it was kind of a tale of kind of two games. It was like power play goals versus kind of 5-on-5, and I think 5-on-5 the Flames looked pretty good, and a lot of shots on net, as Brett also said. So it's like this is I wouldn't say I was happy with the overall performance, because 5-2 loss is still a 5-2 loss, and McDavid scoring a hat trick on you is a bad look in the Battle of Alberta, but I think there are positives in that game, and there are takeaways that they can use in their home opener against Anaheim. So it was okay. Like it was. I kind of expect the Flames to lose the home opener now that it's. I think it's been 12 in a row and like 19 of the last 21. So it's like I kind of chalk up a big L for every home opener now or season opener now. So I'm wasn't surprised, and I think I've seen worse efforts off this top of the year. So not bad.
Yeah, I would agree with you. They outplayed them. They had their moments. You mentioned Rasmus Andersson going bananas. Brett, a lot of the press this morning basically attributed the loss to him and that penalty. What's your take on that? And do you think he could be looking at a suspension?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I haven't read too much this morning, but it's always possible. But I think you can't totally attribute it to that penalty. I think, really any penalty you take against the Oilers now, you're gonna basically your game plan should be to not take penalties against the Oilers because they have basically the best power play in the league, or the best 5-man unit, even if they're not scoring. So I think you definitely need to kind of control those situations, but at the same time, I think this team, the guys who were here last year, they're kind of pissed off about how last year went. So I think you might see more stuff like that, and they're not going to take anything, and they're definitely going to make it hard to play against for sure in all aspects of the game.
Yeah. Greg, quick take from you on Andersson. Do you think he's looking at discipline from the league for that alleged headbutt? Because there's some debate on that, whether it depends on the angle at which you look at this scene.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he got like a 1-game suspension. I was a bit surprised that Blake Coleman got a suspension, and so I think Andersson probably would. And I don't really mind a bit of rough stuff after the whistle, but one thing that's not a super good look is that like Andersson's not a small guy, but Yamamoto is. He's only like 5'8", 155 pounds. Like it wasn't a good look for Andersson, but I get him kind of trying to defend his goalie. But I can see him getting like maybe a 1-game suspension. You're right. It depends on which angle you see it, and if the league deemed that he was kind of doing a headbutting motion, then that's probably an automatic suspension. But I don't mind seeing some of the rough stuff, some of the craziness after the whistle, especially Battle of Alberta. Finally, a real crowd and the real emotion. So it's not the worst thing in the world to see some controversy after a Battle of Alberta. It just makes the tensions that much higher for next time, and the bad blood that much higher for next time. I'm sure someone will be out to kind of tattoo Rasmus Andersson with a hard hit in the next time the Flames meet the Oilers. So it's I guess it is what it is, but I expect to see maybe a 1-game suspension. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Well, you got to love the Battle of Alberta. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just too bad. I think, what are there, only 3 more meetings? They've got a total of 4 matchups this season. I wish there were more.
And we were spoiled. We were so spoiled last year, like 9.
Yeah.
That seems so, like such a small number now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to switch gears here to the news on Harvey the Hound, the Flames mascot, in the running for election to the Mascot Hall of Fame. And, mea culpa here. I said, I think it was 3 weeks ago, that the Hound should be replaced. And I made some disparaging remarks about Harvey, and I'll apologize right here on this show, unreservedly, without condition, and just beg for Harvey's forgiveness here for what I said. He certainly seems to have redeemed himself. And frankly, it was an all-time low for me in my journalistic career, and I regret it very much. And to their credit, my fellow panelists actually came to his defense, and none more so than Greg Tysowski. Greg, you wrote an article this week. To recap that for us and give us your take on Harvey.
Well, I'm now like the Harvey expert of this Flames Faceoff, and his biggest defender. When he was ranked second worst mascot in that bogus online poll about a month ago, I was furious. Like, I was enraged. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't stand silent. So I did write a vigorous defense of Harvey. And then I thought that would kind of be the end of it. Like, it was kind of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek piece, defending our long-serving mascot. And then I find out that he's up for some vote for the Mascot Hall of Fame. And I was like, well, wait a minute, there's a Mascot Hall of Fame? So I kind of did some research, and he passed the first cut of like 25 mascots that were up for it. And there was a first round of online voting that and now he's in the top 10. And so I think with some of the controversies surrounding Harvey and some of the press and the media that he's gotten in the last month or so, including for myself, I think he's got a decent shot at winning this thing. And I looked at some of his competition. There's Iceberg from the Pittsburgh Penguins is in there, and there's the Raptor from the Toronto Raptors, who I wouldn't mind seeing get in there as well. I didn't even know that there was like Globey from the Harlem Globetrotters. I didn't know that even they had a mascot for the Harlem Globetrotters. I didn't think they were a real team, but so yeah, he's got a good chance. And so in my most recent article, I was totally 100% on board, and I may have compromised my own journalistic integrity by pushing fans to actually vote for Harvey to get into the Mascot Hall of Fame in Indiana. I think it's Whitling, Indiana, or something like that. I couldn't even remember. I've never heard of this place, but I'll be casting my vote for Harvey.
That's where the Mascot Hall of Fame is in Whitling, Indiana.
It's either Whitling or Whitting. I'm not even sure how to say it, but yeah, it's in Indiana. So it's actually a museum as well. So I guess pack up the car and get the kids, and I'm sure it's only about a 20-hour drive from here to Indiana, and see Harvey get enshrined.
Yeah, I thought Cleveland was bad enough for the Baseball Hall of Fame, or is that where it is, or is that the Rock and Roll?
I think that's football. I think, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Cleveland, out here they call it the Mistake by the Lake. So, I don't know. Do we broadcast this show in Cleveland? I hope not.
I was gonna say, hopefully we don't have any Flame fans from Cleveland.
Yeah. I wanted to switch gears here on to the Flames scoring. They scored, well, I guess, the conventional wisdom is that they're going to be a Sutter style team. It's going to be, in my opinion, mind-numbing, boring defensive hockey where they emphasize puck possession and keep the shots low. There'll be low scoring games where they eke out a victory with one, maybe two goals with special teams. But I still think you have to score to go anywhere. And the Flames last year scored 2.77 goals per game, and that put them at 19th in the NHL. And actually, that's not bad for them because they've been lower in the last 5 years, with the exception of 2018-19. They've been firmly embedded in the bottom tier of the league. What do you think, Brett? Do you have any reason to believe they're going to score more goals this year?
Yeah, I guess depends really how it pans out. But my kind of thought is everybody says it's boring defense first hockey, but I mean if the goal is to have the puck, you're going to score more goals, in my opinion. If they have a good Corsi for or expected goals percentage, like most of Sutter's teams have had in the past, you're going to score goals. So I think this lineup has the ability to do that with their top six. But I mean, if you put up 47 shots against Arizona, I think you're going to score, 5 or 6 goals. They just they got outplayed by Mike Smith last night a little bit. And, they outchanced the Oilers. They had more high danger chances. So I think that's, one of the positives from that game is I think that the more they do that, definitely the more goals they're going to score, because the top six definitely has the ability to do that.
Mm. Well, you raise an interesting point there. Puck possession, many people don't look at it this way, but it is actually offensive hockey, right? So if the other team doesn't have the puck, they can't score.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg, your take on the Flames, I don't know how I can describe it, apparent shortage of goals in the last few years?
Well, I think I've heard Daryl Sutter say in some of his press availabilities that this is a 3-2 league. It's a 3-2 league.
Yeah.
He said that more than once. And I think he's right. You can be successful in this league if you win a lot of 3-2 games, but as you were saying, I think their average was like 2.77, you were saying. So they're not even getting 3 goals a game, as of last year. So they definitely need more goals. And if you think about it, a lot of these guys who didn't score goals last year are kind of due for comeback seasons. Like we all talked about Monahan until we were blue in the face. He only had 10 goals last year. And Tkachuk didn't have as many goals as people projected that he was going to have. And there are guys like Mangiapane who people are expecting a kind of a breakout season, from him. And he had a goal last night. And so I actually expect the Flames to have more goals if some of these guys who had down years come back and have solid goal scoring years. And if the young guys like Mangiapane or even like Dylan Dubé, maybe he's due for a more of a breakout season, I think the Flames will score more goals. And so I know that Daryl Sutter wants to win these 3-2 games, but I feel that the Flames they're kind of overdue to kind of break out of this kind of goal scoring downturn they've had in recent years. And I think they will. I think they will be a more high powered team than they have been in past years.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you have a reliable above average goaltending, and you can play opponents to even at 5-on-5, then I suppose, you can steal low scoring games. There have been teams that have done that with great effect in the past, but on that point on goaltending, Greg, I want to turn to you on this one, because you wrote a piece this week, Flames taking chance on unproven Vladar as Markham backup. Just how much of a chance, Greg, are they taking, and is goaltending in fact a big weakness for the Flames that nobody's talking about? What do you say? Well,
the Flames seem pretty high in this guy. Like, and the research for my article, I kind of found out that the Flames goaltending coaches have had their eye on this guy for years, and they feel that they kind of found their man. And it is pretty rare for like NHL teams to not get a more seasoned backup. It seems like so many teams in the league that have like a 1A, 1B type of situation, or they have some kind of veteran backup. So I really don't know what would happen if like Markstrom went down for a few 2 or 3 weeks last year with a concussion, and I'm not really sure. Would Daniel Vladar, pick up the slack for a few weeks? He might be that guy, but he is unproven. So like I think part of the point of my article was that we really don't know what would happen. How many games he'll play and how good he'll be. So. I think like Markstrom is set to have kind of a bounce back year himself here. And last night he played okay. Like he wasn't great, he wasn't terrible, but so I really don't know what's going to happen. If Markstrom was to get hurt, would they sign some season backup, or were they just going to roll the dice and see if he could pick up the pieces? So that's a big question mark for me, whether or not their backup goalie, whether their tandem is going to be, successful this year with an unproven guy. So they seem to like this guy. They seem to like Vladar, but we'll see how he plays.
Brett, what's your view on the goaltending? I mean, they can't. I know Markstrom likes to play, and I know Sutter likes to ride his goalies hard, but he's going to need a break. I would think Vladar will see maybe 20 games. Is he up to it? Do you worry at all about the goaltending situation?
I think the only part that worries me is Greg's whole piece was that he is unproven. He has 5 NHL games, but it's a good start for sure. I think he had 3 games that he was over 950 save percentage last season with Boston, and then one bad game kind of blew up his sort of career save percentage. But he's definitely an interesting prospect. He's young, so there's possibility that he kind of down the road maybe takes over the starter's position. But yeah, like Greg said, they apparently had eyes on this guy, and so I kind of looked into it, and he's done really well in the AHL. He's kind of one of the top goalies in the league season after season. And I think he posted one of the best save percentages by a 21 or 22-year-old goalie in the AHL ever. So there's definitely some excitement for me to see what he can do. And he looks good in preseason. I know they got badly outshot by Winnipeg there. I think it was last Friday, and he kept them in it. So I think there's a lot of potential there. But it's definitely like a little nerve-wracking, to kind of have that guy come in to play 20, maybe 25 games that you need to win. So, but the team must have a lot of hope in this guy if they're willing to have him back up for Markstrom.
Yeah. Well, definitely the Flames are going to need great goaltending. I mean, the Sutter defensive system, that approach to hockey depends on it. I'm thinking they may well get it. With Markstrom, he'll get a lot of help if the Flames are indeed a tighter defense core in front of him. That should help his game as well as Vladar's game. So all remains to be seen. Wanted to close off, gentlemen, on the captaincy. Captains, who should be captain is what I'm trying to say.
There you go.
Yeah. Will one be named this year, and and who could it be? Sutter doesn't seem to be in any rush to do anything appointing a captain. Greg, what's your take? Are we going to see someone with a C on the Flaming C this year?
I hope so, because I kind of I'm not a big fan of teams that don't name a captain right away. I was so surprised. I think Las Vegas or Vegas Golden Knights, I think they spent their first 2 seasons or even into their third without naming a captain. And I just find it odd when a team doesn't have a captain. And but it's not unprecedented. And I wasn't really surprised that the Flames didn't name anyone as their captain for the start of the season. I do think, I think I've said this before, is that if Matthew Tkachuk signs a big extension this year, like if all of a sudden the Flames go all in on Tkachuk and sign to some like 7-year deal or something, I think the day after he gets signed, they'll probably give him the captaincy, just because I think, like then that's showing everyone that he's the cornerstone, he's the face of the franchise. But I don't think I think he's a prime candidate to be captain still, even with some of his antics last year. So I think he's the main candidate, but he won't get the captaincy until he signs on the dotted line, because it doesn't make sense to make him captain now and then have all this uncertainty about his contract negotiations and all that stuff. So he's the guy for me. That would be the Flames' next captain.
Yeah. Brett, if you were head coach or general manager to a living, who would you be looking at? Would Tkachuk be your guy?
Yeah, I think the longer they go without a captain, I think that's becoming more and more what ends up happening. Because I think really you could name a Michael Backlund, a Chris Tanev, even Milan Lucic as a captain, because they're guys who have been around for years. Lucic has won a Stanley Cup, and so. But I see a lot of was reading a couple articles, and the guys they talk about, they're kind of leadership by committee kind of mentality in the room right now. So they gave I think it was Tkachuk, Monahan, Tanev, and Backlund all assistant captains. So yeah, I think the fact they didn't name one by the start of the season kind of signals that I don't think they will. And then, like Greg said, I think once Tkachuk signs that next contract, maybe possibly a max year deal kind of thing, then I think he's probably immediately named captain, because just to me, I don't see anybody else kind of holding themselves more accountable than Tkachuk does. He goes out right and says it, that he was awful that night, or could have done this better, could have done that better. And so I think he's a guy who's probably vocal in the room, but he's also kind of vocal for the team and himself to the media. So I think that's just kind of the natural progression, how it's going to go as soon as he signs that new contract.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you guys. I think Tkachuk is the only choice here. You've got to have a captain, though, with a long-term contract. I think most captains in the league, if I understand the statistics correctly, have been with their club for their entire career. So, a long-term contract, I think they've got to get with Tkachuk. I know, well, this is this topic is coming in from left field, but I don't know, any feel for when they could sign him? They got to sign him soon. He's coming up, next summer he's an RFA. Greg, your take on that? Are we going to see a signing soon? And is the signing of Tkachuk and Brady in Ottawa, is that instructive? He signed 7 years for $8.2 million. Matthew will be trying to go higher than that. What's your take?
Well, it's funny because we've heard so much about Googro, this year, that I haven't really heard much on the Tkachuk front. Like we haven't really heard much from his agent or from the Flames. It seems to kind of be on the back burner right now, and it has to get done sometime, I think, this year. Like, I don't think they want to drag this out into the off season, because you saw exactly what happened to his brother. Like, it became a distraction, and he hasn't played yet, and it's kind of I think they really want to avoid that. So I don't know. I would guess, like, just off the top of my head, that this gets done, I think, sometime maybe early in the new year. Like, we're talking, like maybe January or something. Like, maybe they come back and announce it. Like, I don't think it serves anybody to drag this out, because we just saw a prime example of what can happen, when it does get dragged out. So I'm hoping early 2022, maybe there's a big announcement, and the next Tkachuk brother gets a big contract. So here's hoping.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got to do it before the trade deadline for a bunch of complicated reasons I won't get into here. But Brett, if you had to bet, when do you think Tkachuk will be signed?
Yeah, I think I'm going to put my chips in and say that he signs during the season at some point. or before free agency. Just kind of the way it kind of is playing out here. Like Kachuk's an RFA, but Goudreau is a UFA and Mangiapane is a UFA. So I think that's two guys that are going to wait out the entire season to sign contracts, and try and have a good year so they can kind of maximize their potential for that next contract. Whereas, Tkachuk, I think definitely could sign within the year. I think just the way you look at it, I don't think Goudreau is going to sign anything. And same with Mangiapane. I think he's really going to try and, have a good season for himself and really cash in. So I think just the fact that Tkachuk's an RFA kind of leads me to think that they'll probably try and get something done with him first. So I definitely see it happening in the season for sure.
All right. Well, all of this bears watching for sure. Thank you, gentlemen. It's unfortunately we've run out of time, but as always, it was a great discussion. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of the Flames Face-Off. We'll see you in another week. And in the meantime, to make sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Give us a like on those two platforms. And share this with your fellow Flames fans. And do be sure to check out some of the great hockey content that we have here at thehockeywriters.com. Until next week, take care.